Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. We're going to give ourselves a couple of minutes to have other people to join, and then we'll get started. Okay, let's get started. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We're just so happy to have this group of leaders to join with us today. I'm Veretta Yancey, and I host a series called the Building Series. I'm the president of Mann HR Consultant Group, and we provide a full service HR support. And I'm just so excited to have the SHRM Chapter Presidents here today to talk about leading in local chapters. So let me just go through a bit of housekeeping, and then we can get started with our session. So first of all, this session is being recorded, and it will be available to you. So we'll be sending that out through our social media. And so please, you know, you don't have to take notes. You'll be able to watch it again. And then we will be on the lookout for any comments or questions that are coming through the chat, because we do want to address those. And please join us. If you could mark for your calendars for next week, we will have the recruiters and placement professionals to just talk about landing the right role and even adding recruiting skills to your portfolio. So we'll have that for next week. Just to remind you, the information that we provide in this session, it is not legal advice, and we encourage you to seek legal counsel as it pertains to your unique situations. So thank you again for joining. We're excited to have you, and we can just go right into introducing our leaders for today and really getting to know who they are and what they're doing in this space of SHRM presidents. So thank you. So if I could have the panelists to just introduce themselves, I can, let me just read briefly who we have on the panel, and then right after that, they will introduce themselves. So here we go. We have Natasha Slaughter, and she's the president of the NEX, and it's a media group, and she's out of Jacksonville, Florida. We have Raleigh Robinson Sr. He is the president of the Louisville SHRM in Louisville, Kentucky. Yes, please, thank you. And we have Monique Akambi, and she is a human resource manager in Tallahassee, Florida. And then we have Dr. Delaney Johnson, who is the director of employee relations, and he's out of the Miami, Florida area chapter. So if I could, just in the order of that I introduced you, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. We want to hear about you. So we want to know about you, your business. We want to hear why you joined SHRM, and specifically why you joined the leadership team. So if I could have you, Natasha, to go first, please.
All right, thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting us to be on this panel. Once again, my name is Natasha Slaughter. I am president of the Jacksonville chapter, Jacksonville, Florida chapter, which is called SHRM Jacksonville. We are a mega chapter mixed up of 673 members in the Jacksonville, Florida and Northeast Florida area. I have a little over 17 years of human resources experience, and you name it, I've done it, from recruiting and being a full cycle recruiter, to employee relations, to comp and benefits, to being a human resources director. And I started out in the hotel industry and worked my way through healthcare as well as retail distribution. As I was going throughout my career, one of the things that became really prevalent with me was the fact that I did a lot of marketing. As human resources professionals, we tend to market a lot, right? We market benefits, we market 401k, we market the company itself, and to be the employer of choice. And so I find myself determining of, what do I want to do next in life? And it just came to me that I really needed to start my own marketing company and focus on small businesses and nonprofits. So I utilized my experience in human resources from that perspective and started my own company, which is Next Chapter Media Group. But I also found out that, as I, continue my career, not only as volunteering in a nonprofit arena, but also volunteering with SHRM, I found that I had a specific niche in nonprofit. So as of this year, I started a nonprofit consulting arm of my business to focus on professional associations, as well as strategic planning for nonprofits. So that kind of brings me here today. I joined SHRM to basically enhance my knowledge. When I joined SHRM, I had just transitioned from being a regional trainer, had been out of day-to-day human resources for a couple of years. So I wanted to make sure that I was still up on my knowledge regarding human resources. And then I kind of segue from there to joining the local chapter because I was getting my certification at the time. So I wanted to make sure that I had those recertification credits, also to network, because I was once again getting right back from training into human resources. So I wanted to make sure that my knowledge was on point, my connections were on point, that I had the networking, that network that I can reach out and discuss with other HR professionals, and that was the best way to do that. The main reason why I joined the local chapter leadership was one of the main reasons was, one, I got invited. Someone approached me and invited me to be a part of the board, to share my knowledge and expertise. But also a big reason is, for me, Natasha is a person that likes to be a part of the narrative. Person that wants to be a part of the discussion when it comes to industry and what area I'm working in. And so SHRM allowed me to do that. It allowed me to have the proverbial seat at the table, and allowed me to really change and be a part of what's happening in the Jacksonville area when it comes to human resources. It allows me to give a voice to when it comes to things in the national arena as well. So that's kind of the reason why I joined SHRM leadership at the local level. And of course, some of the other presidents will tell you, when you are president for the state of Florida anyway, within the state of Florida, you are also part of the state council. So you're also able to affect change, as well as have a voice from a state perspective as well. So you get all levels when you are at least a president of a local chapter here in the state of Florida. And that's it about me.
Great, thank you. Riley, would you go next, please?
Wow, I don't know if I wanted to follow that. That's intimidating. Wow. Wow. Well, well, here's me in a nutshell. I was going through a transition. I had been in loss prevention security for many, many years, and when it came to a point where it wasn't fun anymore, when it came to the point where I started to have this change in my mindset that people were all criminals, I needed to follow my heart, not my job. And people started to see me as a security person. And I needed to move that change. I had to change that paradigm. So I had the opportunity to move from loss prevention, and it actually took me a couple of years because I had to change the minds and the hearts of the individuals that I was working with, that I was not what I do, but who I am. So when I changed the heart, I had to keep proving myself in that arena. So I finally did get transitioned into a human resource management role. But even in that role, I started to look at things and ask myself, am I being taught what they're teaching me, or am I following the directive of what human resources should be? So at that point, I left that organization as I was pursuing my master's degree. So I have a master's degree in human resources, but prior to that, I already had a bachelor's degree in police administration and corrections. So I had to total pivot. So when I took that pivot,
Well, I don't know. I'll let you tell it.
So when I took that pivot from from loss prevention, doing investigation on criminal related issues, I was actually in a transitional phase, and I was kind of like, so how do I really get to learn about HR? Because when you're in the loss prevention or criminal justice mindset, the only people you knew were criminal justice mindset people. So I needed to shift my relationships and become more network oriented, because when you are in that field, you don't want to get known. Like, I didn't have a Facebook, I didn't have a LinkedIn, I didn't have any social media because I didn't want the bad guys to get me. So again, that was a shift in paradigm. So once I did that, I joined a local chapter because I didn't know national SHRM from local SHRM. I didn't even know there was a state SHRM. So all those things were brand new to me. But I went to a local chapter meeting and they explained to me kind of what it was. And I just kind of got involved and started to learn HR kind of from the ground up. So I kind of built my career through SHRM. And by doing that, just with the compassion of the people at the various levels, had the opportunity to be a chair, because, well, I volunteered first just to kind of say, so what does volunteering look like? And then I went from volunteering to becoming a chair, and that's basically reporting up to a director. And then I kind of, thought to myself, that don't look hard. So I said, let me become a director so I can kind of learn, like, I got to be that person, right? So that was a great opportunity. I did college relations, I did workforce readiness, and then I did certification, but I didn't do certification because, again, I didn't know what certification was. So through the certification process, being a chair and learning and volunteering, I was actually able to get my certification through SHRM and following the direction and study groups, things of that nature. And then I taught a study group, again, learning some stuff, and I went, hey, I like it. They moved me to the state level to head up diversity and inclusion for the state, and I did that for a short period of time. And then I did certification also for a short period of time. And then a colleague of mine, Patricia, if you're on here, she said, hey, could you come back to the local chapter for me? And I was like, if you need me, I'll come and I'll help out and support, right? So I did that only to kind of be there, and then whispered in my ear later, hey, are you interested in being president? I went, no. And then she said, okay, I'll come back to you.
That's
so she
exactly.
again.
Yeah.
And yeah, president-elect, president, and here I am. So, I learned a lot through my time with SHRM and going to the state, council meetings and going to a lot of our conferences, going to the national conferences, getting a better understanding of what national SHRM is and how it really works. And that's one of the passions as a president. I get to make sure that we're aligned to what the national SHRM is going through, making sure that we are an invested partner to our cities. And I really enjoy that opportunity as president of SHRM. So,
Right.
you know, and just to slide this little thing, my middle name is actually Smiley. I think you said something else. So, and I say that for a couple of reasons. It's my grandmother's name, but when I usually tell people my name is Smiley, especially when I was in security, they say, I don't see it. Because again, when I stop people, I was like this. But now that I'm in HR, I can actually smile a lot.
You can actually smile a lot.
I can actually be myself. So
I love it.
that's me in a nutshell.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. I just have a question. So you kept saying SHRM. So just to be clear, that's local SHRM?
Yeah, SHRM is the Louisville Society of Human Resource Management.
Okay. So that's specifically to Louisville. Okay.
Yeah, we're specific. I'm the local chapter president,
Okay.
and actually we're celebrating 80 years as an organization.
Oh, wow.
So this is our 80th anniversary. So
right.
very happy that I get to run the ship on their 80th anniversary.
Yes, that's definitely remarkable. And one more question. So
Sure.
Is there a charge to join the chapters of SHRM? Do you have to have, so it sounds like based on what you said, you don't have to have certifications to be a part of the membership of the local chapter, but do you have to pay dues, or how does that work?
So each chapter does its own thing. So in our particular location, we actually have a low-cost annual fee, and then you do get charged for your monthly meetings if you attend. Some organizations, some chapters will have a larger fee, but then all of their events are free to their members. So it really does depend on which organization.
Each local chapter. Okay.
So yeah, it's so important when you move into any city. So like if I was to relocate, I would go immediately to the local chapter and get engaged and learn more about it, and go from there.
Okay, perfect. Monique, you're up.
All righty. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Beretta, for inviting me. I'm really excited to be a part of this panel discussion. My name is Monique Akambi. I am the HR manager at an employee benefits consulting firm here in Tallahassee, Florida, but I'm originally from Miami. And I am also the chapter president of Big Bend SHRM, which is the local SHRM chapter here in Tallahassee. What prompted me or kind of encouraged me to join SHRM, much like Natasha, I wanted to make sure I enhance on my HR knowledge and stay abreast of things that are going on that would impact the workplace or impact my role within HR, whether it's through the chapter or in my organization. I have about a little over 15 years of HR experience. And I started out in the public school districts and they're in HR, and now I'm in the private sector. I don't know if I'll ever go back to the private sector. But I love what I do, especially in terms of working for an employee benefits firm, because what our clients hire us to do, I get to do that for our employees in addition to all things related to HR. What got me into chapter leadership was I feel like I'm a glutton for punishment. I always have to be doing something. I always have to be involved in something. And I just remember attending my very first chapter meeting and just identifying, wow, I know I can do this. Like I wanted to affect change, just very similar to what Natasha shared. And so I started out as a diversity and inclusion chair and worked my way up. I served as our conference chair. So I planned our local conference, and then went into the president-elect role. And I'm now serving my second term as president. Riley, I can see the correlation between security and HR, because sometimes we have to operate in security. So I could definitely see how you.
That's where I was going with that, but go ahead. But he does it with a smile, right?
Right. Yes, smiley. But I mean, being a part of SHRM. I joined because I wanted to be a part of a network where I can meet other professionals like everyone that's on this Zoom meeting now and be able to collaborate with each other and then also just learn. I'm a life learner, so I'm always looking for ways to learn.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Dr. Johnson, it's your turn. What can you tell us about yourself?
Well, good afternoon. I echo the sentiments that have been mentioned already. As far as thank you for being a part of the call today. Thank you for the time and the opportunity. A little bit about me. I've been doing HR for about 20 years now. I've done it in the private sector, public sector, profit, nonprofit, domestic, international. I've worked in Iraq, Afghanistan, 5 different industries. Working from CEOs to presidents to colonels. So when it comes to the people element, irregardless of the industry in which you're in, if you don't have that intrinsic or that thing inside of you, to where if someone comes to you with a problem, they should walk out feeling as if you're the solution more than the roadblock. And that stimulated me to want to grow in HR, to expand my network and understand what resources and tools were available so that I could be the best me. Hence, what leads me into joining SHRM. I'm a firm believer that I don't know all the answers to every questions that may be asked, but I do believe I know how to ask the right answers so that I can prepare myself to be able to answer other questions down the line. So the more that you're able to do HR, the more experience that you have, it grooms you to be more of a subject matter expert and a people champion. And that's kind of the tagline that I use on LinkedIn, is because I truly feel like in HR, you have to, if you're comfortable being where you are, then you're going to be passed. And what I mean by that is the world is ever changing. Technology, diversity, racial inequality. If you look and feel like yesterday, then you're not going to be able to hit the bottom line and add the value that a lot of operational stakeholders need. So with that kind of being said, that is what was the catalyst behind me joining SHRM leadership. I have an obsession with being the best me. If you couldn't tell by my credentials, I think that's the segue into the next question. But when it comes to whatever is out there, I currently have 3 sons, and out of my 3 young kings, the probability of them going to jail is stronger than them getting a college education. So with that being scary but realistic, probability, it encourages me to sit on every seat that I can find in the area in which I reside in, so that I can create an influential difference versus to have a voice that doesn't change, that doesn't create influence. It's one thing to talk in your living room. It's another thing to talk at a table amongst people that can make that change. So that's what inspires me. And I encourage others that are on the panel, I'm not on the panel, but that are listening in, that if you truly are energetic, you truly want to be the best you, then SHRM is the place that you should be diving in at 100%. And if you want to take your career even further and drive the change, not only within your chapter, but within your state, within your footprint, within your market, look into leadership. And I encourage you to do that in a timely manner. And it's going to be more people like us that's on the panel today that encourage you, and we'll be here readily available to answer any questions that you may have. So that's my elevator pitch, but
Right.
to dive a little deeper if you need me to.
No, thank you so much. I mean, it definitely was one of the things that I considered when I thought to put this group together. And that is, a lot of conversations are going around, national presidency and, how, what's going on with just in national politics. And one of the things that I encourage people is to get involved in your local politics, understand what's going on at the school district level, at your, whether it's your county board or city board, knowing who are the judges and, police chiefs, all of the people that have, these elected officials, bringing, being a part of that and getting to know them really helps you in the long run, you know, as far as them supporting the ideas and views that you have as a community. So thank you so much for that. So yes, you did allude to, so it is no secret, you guys, when you look at the marketing communication that we sent out, there is one person up there that has 0 credentials, and that would be me. So let's talk about this. Dr. Johnson, like a lot. So let's talk about why so many, and if we have to do it, just for, you know, obviously bettering ourselves and, you know, having that, that credential for, you know, job application, or just to be able to say, you know, I've taken the test and I passed. So, but tell me why it matters.
Well, for me personally, and then I'll get into the perception with that. For me personally, I started off, by the age of 25, I was running Log Cap 3 in Afghanistan, which was about 2,000 FTEs, and I was responsible for 60 people, and I was 25. So I had several people challenging my authority because, you know, my age. I had, you know, working in the industrial light and oil and gas with MHE workers and people that are drilling. You know, it encouraged me to say, it's one thing to say, this is what I think we should do versus this is what literature shows. And so it was a springboard for me to say, if I'm going to get the credibility that I feel like I deserve, then I need to find the governing bodies that reflect my ability to not only understand the content, but show that I'm competent in the content. So I actually dropped some of, when I was younger, they used to call me alphabet soup. I really stopped putting all those things on there because I didn't want to send a mixed message. But so if you were to prioritize, I would start with like the foundational knowledge as far as SPHR and PHR. The applied practice would be more your SHRM CP, SHRM SCP. A perfect example would be like if someone asked you FMLA, PHR would be, you know, gosh, that's a loaded answer, but FMLA is, you know, protected time, 1,250 hours, rolling 12 months. Your SHRM CP would be more, you know, how do you assess, you know, laws and consideration around, you know, undue hardship and things like that. So once you understand the content, then taking it a little bit further to understand the risk and liability associated with it is what I would advocate for. But I don't think that, for me, well, I'll just say this and then I digress. Credentials are one thing. It's kind of like learning how to swim through education. Experience is in the water. So, right. And for me, it's, if you're going to be in the water, why not be the best swimmer you can be? Why not learn how to back straight? Why not learn how to butterfly? Get everything that you can. So if you're going to be in the water, which is life, which is experience, be the best at it. That's kind of what I encourage others to do. But I don't think that just because you read a book makes you a better HR practitioner than someone for someone that's been doing it 30 years. You have to figure out how to enhance yourself versus doing one or the other. So right. I think they play off of each other, but that's just right. 2 cents into it.
So if you wouldn't mind, if you would break down the acronyms of each of them and then just give us just a brief for anybody who may be on the call who does not know anything about any of their credentials and how they're established.
Okay, so SHRM SCP is Society of Human Resource Management Senior Certified Professional.
Okay.
SPHR is Senior Professional in Human Resources. The small HRBP is Strategic HR Business Partner through HCI. The SWP is Strategic Workforce Planning, and LDSS is Leadership. It has to do with succession planning. So leadership, it's been a while. I didn't down. I would have had a little clip note or something, but it's all about understanding your workforce, how to create internal mobility throughout your strategic workforce plan. That's what LDSS, which is your succession strategist, in addition to the strategic workforce planning.
Okay. So what you're saying though is that if somebody wants to start off, they should start off as a generalist, or do you have to have a certain title to apply for these certifications, or what is the path?
So SHRM has its criteria around experience working in a professional capacity. But I would encourage those that if you like people, get into a niche where you're working with people. And then as you continue to grow with people, you're going to start positioning yourself into the people department. And that's typically what happens with a lot of HR folks.
Okay.
That true maturation of, I started off doing this with people, then I went to here and to there. But to simplify your question, if you go into the SHRM website and you want to register for the PHR, the SPHR, or if you go to, what is that other place? SHRM or the HR Certification Institute, it'll tell you specifically what the minimum requirements are for you to sit for your testing.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Riley, you know, you were when you were giving us a little when you were providing information about yourself, you talked about being the president of Louisville SHRM, as that's an actual role, like you're actually getting paid for that?
Yes, in case you didn't hear, I was laughing. So, so no, I am not getting paid. So my day job is with Humana. So I am a senior associate professional, right? So I would be reporting to Dr. Johnson, basically. So that's how that would work. And I was able to pivot some of the things that I learned as an investigator in loss prevention and utilize my human resources skills. So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis for Humana, is to support their operations when it comes to any kind of violation of policy, conflicts of interest, or any harassment or things of that nature. So I investigate those kind of nefarious issues that may come up at a corporate or local level of about 40,000 plus people.
Right. Okay, so I don't want to open the door, so I'm fine if you close it back up, but
I'm going to close it. Thank you. Okay, so let's open the door about my day job. So let's talk about my passion. My passion is the local SHRM, right? So this is what I do because I love doing it. And they pay me through experiences. They pay me through, again, networking. They pay me through really getting a deeper dive, kind of like the question you asked Dr. Johnson, which was, you know, what is this SHRM certification? What is this? What is HRCI? So again, you get to sit down and have a dialogue with those individuals that's like, look, I'm the director of certification, so let me have this conversation with you. You know, I might need a job. So you sit down with the workforce readiness director and you have that conversation. The thing as the president, what my job is to collaborate, is to coordinate, is to get everybody to play in the same sandbox and to really take a look at what are the missing pieces from our organization that maybe is at a national SHRM level that we don't have, especially when you were talking about earlier about really getting involved in your local elections. Well, SHRM has a specific legislative chair, right? So we are saying, hey, we want you involved in politics. The really cool thing about being part of Louisville, we're a metro city. So what we have to do is we're in the metro, we're working with the mayor's office, we're partnering with the Louisville Louisville Urban League, our GLI, which is our local business partners. So we do a lot of connecting from the business standpoint. And I would not have done that had I not joined the local chapter.
Right. So it's not like a feeder pool into the SHRM organization where you become an employee with SHRM. It's more of, it's a parallel track to where I have my career that's moving along, but then I have a place where I can do some political action, if you will, so I can have a seat at the table. We can collaborate with different organizations, and so it provides that opportunity.
Yes, and then it also gives you a great opportunity to just to have a beer with your HR colleague and be able to just really be you.
Okay.
Right. So sometimes when you're at that corporate level, when you're on stage, you're being watched. So you've got to have a place where you can unwind and truly be yourself with HR, with people who understand what you do, how you do it, and you can kind of relax.
Right, right.
Decompress. And that's the great thing about being a part of the local chapter, because when you're at the national level, you really don't do that interaction, right?
Okay.
You do a little of that interaction at the state level, but at the local level, we have something we call like an HR Connect. And that's basically HR people getting together to have drinks, right?
Okay.
And we just sit around and we just talk. How's your life is going? How's your family?
Right.
How's your business? Let's go back to your family. How's life? Right?
Right.
So decompress, be yourself, and in a safe environment.
So let me ask you though, if people are interested, so maybe, you know, at the college level, they may have taken some HR classes, or, you know, maybe interned in that space and thinking about going into it. Is there a place for them in a local chapter? Do you have to have valid experience, or can you just come in with a, I don't know what I want, let me just feel it out attitude?
So we have we have a very specific role, which is called college relations, and then we're actually creating a role called emerging professionals, right?
Oh, okay.
So you've never been an HR person. Maybe you want to grow up to be an HR person, right? So we have something called emerging professional, because I would not be in the college relations section when I started off in 2009, right?
Okay.
I was an emerging professional because I only been in HR since 2009, so it's almost a little over 11 years, right?
Okay.
So I needed someone to kind of mentor me and develop me and say, hey, this might be the next move for you. You need to try this. I recommend that. Someone who could advocate for me. And here at the state level, you know, Shelley Trent is actually looking at putting together a statewide mentorship program. So that since we're in this virtual environment, we are now taking a look at the entire state, because she's our director on the state council for college relations and emerging professionals. So anyone who's interested in HR, and they're like, well, how do I get in touch with? So the thing is, Raleigh can't be everybody's mentor, right? So
right.
there's some really good HR professionals out there. So this is one of the avenues we've decided to do here at this state, that's going to be run by our state council, to actually get people connected, if not in Louisville, but anywhere in the state, to say, hey, I would like to really learn more about HR, about this particular facet of HR, and they have somebody they can actually go to and have that conversation.
Right. Now, and I know I didn't have this as a pre, one of the pre-questions that we put together, but does anybody know, and this is anybody, is there a projection of where HR is going? Is the industry growing? Do you see where people are coming into the industry and maybe are leaving the industry? Is there, you know, gaps? What are some of those things that you just, you know, as you started to talk about, you know, having a feeder pool into HR, using the collegiate level and to use emerging professionals. So that just, you know, made me think about that.
I'll take a stab at that one. I do think, and there's definitely data out there to support the fact that the HR industry is growing. If you look at, the survey by pay scale and SHRM and other type of career type of surveys, the profession of HR is growing, and is projected to continue to grow. I do think that when it comes to learning about human resources, I think we're seeing, and this is just based on my area in Jacksonville, Florida, we're seeing an increase in the number of colleges, universities that are now going back to that HR degree, as opposed to before where they were taking the HR degrees away. They're starting to add those back in. So we're seeing, and also putting several of the local colleges and universities are adding those people manager type of curriculum to the non-certification and non-degree type of classes. They're offering those. So I think that the people they're seeing an importance of human resources and knowing that at the end of the day, a manager, HR is a function that every manager is responsible for. A human resources manager just manages that function, but every manager has the HR function within their job responsibilities.
Right.
But for going back to the college, I think that anybody could really get into human resources. As we know, it does take a certain person's personality to be in human resources, but we know that anybody can try to be in human resources. We definitely heard that, right? So, but I think that there is a need for us to start having the conversation about the human resources industry pretty earlier than we do. Sometimes it kind of, as probably most is talked about here today, that we kind of fell into it because of the need of what we were going through with our career. It wasn't the fact that we went in from high school to college to say, hey, I'm going to be a human resources professional. Right. So we have to start talking about it really at the high school level and the early part of college level, so that there is a clear path for people to start thinking about human resources as a profession.
Right,
so,
right.
Hopefully that answered your question.
No, that's good. I mean, it's just, as you think about, like the technology industry is growing, for example, if they're, HR or people, really wanting to get into that group, because as we know, it's a shared service, right? It's not, typically a profit-making part of the organization. And so it is a burden sometimes for organizations, and they don't necessarily look at it as the most valuable piece of the organization. While they may say people are their greatest assets, you and HR understand that it doesn't feel that way all the time.
Well, if you don't mind, I was looking up, I look at this one website called ONET. Anybody know what that one is? It's one of those websites that kind of lets you know what are the occupations that are hot out there. And ONET actually says that there's a bright outlook for the occupation of human resources because of what you kind of shared, is because HR requires a lot of technology skills. Accounting, document management, enterprise resource planning. There are lots of human resource management tools and time accounting that, the basic personnel management style is gone. A lot of HR practitioners have to have strategy. That's why, that exists. We have to think about succession planning. And you're right, there are a lot of organizations that are outsourcing a lot of those things, but then it's just like anything else. One minute they're going to outsource it, next minute they're going to bring it back in-house. So you have to kind of be ready for when those things happen as a practitioner. And it's important to understand business. And that's the biggest part that HR has to understand, is that we are business practitioners, and we have to make sure our business are running through people. So people, whatever the business is needed to keep the business running, and you need someone who understands how to make that happen.
Right. Okay, for those of you who are on the call, please go ahead and submit any questions that you have or comments that you'd like to share. We want to make sure that anything that you have is being included in this session. Before I go on to Monique to really talk about, so I was reading Monique's profile, and she mentioned other credentials. So, you know, a lot of times there's a SHRM credential, and everybody's talking about the SHRM and, you know, taking the test. And then, of course, Dr. Johnson talked about, well, there's other things. There's workforce planning and succession planning. And so we're seeing that there's, you know, I think many of us are aware of credentials and certifications that you get in technology roles and, you know, those types of roles and the, you know, operational roles in the organization. But now we're starting to see a lot of these credentials coming in for HR roles. So can you tell us a little bit about it and what you do with the state and the local government?
Absolutely, thank you. So
Thank you.
just to kind of piggyback off of what Raleigh was sharing, which kind of leads into other certifications in HR, we have to understand the entire business. We have to understand financially how the organization makes money, how the organization operates. And so for myself, I'm a Florida Sterling Council Master Examiner. And what that is the state level council of the National Malcolm Baldrige Quality Performance Improvement model. And so that is a management model that is used throughout the state in state government, but also in the nonprofit and private sector industries, where I go and look at organizations or assess organizations based on that management model, that criteria. So I'm looking at their organization, I'm assessing or interviewing everyone in the organization, from the CEO or the president all the way down to the frontline staff. And I'm evaluating their operations based on 7 categories, and that is their leadership. So how are the leaders leading the organization? Their strategy, how organizations are planning for now and also in the future. How are they taking a look at their customers? What systems are they using? How do they integrate those systems in terms of supporting the organization and managing knowledge? Workforce, category 5 is workforce. So looking at the workforce and how the workforce gets the things done. And then operations, which is category 6, and then results. So looking at the data. So if you've gotten 1 through 6, your data should show that you are applying this model. And so as a part of being a part of the Florida Sterling Council, I've had the opportunity to get my Lean Six Sigma yellow belt. And so what I'm starting to see, it's very beneficial because a lot of HR is process driven. And so it forces you to think very differently and looking at data and asking those questions. Are we operating in the most efficient manner? Are we reducing waste? Are we performing at an optimal level and taking the organization to that next level? And so I would say for anyone that is in human resources to look beyond just kind of those HR certifications that we tend to go to. But there's a ton of certifications, project management. I see a lot of individuals that are in human resources that obtains their PMP certification. So that is another certification that is beneficial within HR. HR is so broad that you can find your niche. You can be a generalist where you can cover all facets of HR. But if you have maybe a desire to be an instructional design and going into that learning and development realm of HR, then that can be your niche. If you have a passion for compensation and benefits, you're still within HR, but that is your area of expertise in that area. And so what I'm also starting to see a lot of colleges here in Tallahassee with Florida State University and Florida A&M University is that they're pushing students to the field of human resources, but also encouraging them to look at those other fields, looking at psychology. So usually the psychology majors go to HR, right? And we see the correlation between that. But there's a lot of students that are a part of our student chapter that are going in instructional design and developing HR technology that organizations can then use within their organization. And so I would definitely encourage everyone to just kind of think beyond that, definitely looking at some type of quality or performance improvement certification. So that is, either getting your Lean Six Sigma belt, either green belt or yellow belt. There's several levels to Lean Six Sigma. Also project management certification as well as another certification that is very beneficial in the world of human resources.
Right. Okay. And so let me ask you though, is this something that people are funding themselves, or they're using their organization and the money that they have for training and development? Talk a little bit about that. So what are ways that people can, get support from their organization? Maybe, so perhaps you are working in, doing payroll, but you want to do something in, training, you talk about, making that transition?
So for myself, I'm very fortunate that my organization supports me in my involvement with the SHRM Council, and they see the benefit of that, because I don't just look at human resources, I'm looking at the organization as a whole. And so when we're in strategic planning, I'm not just thinking about the people, I'm also thinking about our strategy, I'm thinking about our customers. And so I'm bringing that skill set to the table to look at the whole picture rather than just being responsible for my area, which is human resources. And so a lot of organizations see the benefit of that, and they support their employees by being able leadership development to be able to broaden your skill set and to learn the organization as a whole. But then also there are individuals that fund themselves and start a consulting firm. So they use that's their training, and that's a way for them to start their consulting firm. And so a lot of my peers that are examiners have started their consulting firms where they go out and help organizations that maybe want to apply for the award, because there is a competitive process. There are assessments where you can have a group of examiners just come in and give you that feedback. And what we do is identify what are your key strengths based on those categories, and then what are your opportunities for improvement. And it's not that you're not doing it well, it is just that if you apply this model in this area, it will take your organization to the next level. And so a lot of people have been able to start consulting firms to go in and help organizations either prepare for that journey. With myself, I was able to implement what's called a journey to performance excellence within our organization. And it's identifying how do we look at all of our processes. Let's map out all of our processes and identify where is there waste, where is there redundancies, and then how do we optimize the performance of our people, but also the performance of our processes that we put in place.
Oh, that's good stuff. Thank you so much for that. One of the things that you talked about was the processes, and sometimes, as you think about looking at the processes that have been in place in organizations came probably before the people came, into the organizations. And so what you're saying though, is that you guys just you do an assessment and you provide a report and a recommendation to help the organization make better decisions around different things that they need to improve. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So they can have a process in place, and just because that process has worked for years, it doesn't mean that it is the most optimal or the most efficient process. So
right.
To think, why are we doing this? Is this the best way, or can we do something very differently? I teased my president, who I report to, and I share with him, I said, while COVID-19 has really threw us in a whirlwind, I'm excited about COVID. And the reason why the component I'm excited about is that it has forced us to be innovative and to think about how we get things done and how to do things differently. I can't tell you how many times I've had managers say to me, I need this person to work in the office. They cannot work remotely. Well, our entire workforce is remote now. So it's going to be really hard for our managers to make a case that they need someone in a cubicle for 8 hours to get their job done.
Exactly. And that's literally one of the things that I said to one of my clients, and that is because, a lot of this, we need them in the office, we need them in the office. And I said, well, if it's a behavioral issue, then address the behavior issue. if they are working and they're productive, then don't leave that alone. If
Right.
opportunities where you feel like smaller groups need to get together, let those teams work that out. Let them meet, you know, in a park somewhere, or, you know, and they can social distance or do whatever that they need, you know, whether it's a one-on-one, if you need to have that you know, in-person meeting. But definitely you don't have to, you know, have everybody coming into the office and coughing on each other. So that's the thing that I think I the most, because in my role, I typically, or I would say in the companies that I worked for, we were in open environments. And so I was that person that if somebody just looked like they were coughing, I would give them that look like, and then everybody would look at me because they want me to say to that person, excuse me, like, why are you here? What is going on that's so important that you need to be here today and share all of this with us? We're good. Thank you. You can go home. You know, so I think that's one of the, you know, things about COVID, I think, is having people to say, if you're not feeling well, you get to stay home, no questions asked.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Do you mind if I jump in and add a little asterisk to that?
Absolutely.
So I think embracing technology with the disruption of COVID is one thing, but we can't forget the people, right? And right now we're losing the water cooler talk. I use that term lightly, but what I'm seeing is just because we're working remote, we're losing that opportunity to connect and collaborate because you don't see people. So right now, even what literature shows you is there's 3 forms of development. To your point around, is your company still paying for it? I can be honest with you. I think about 90% of my footprint down here in North Florida has eliminated their enrichment budget because they're trying to stay afloat. So this is what I would say take with you. Either it's job enlargement, job rotation, or job enrichment. Job rotation basically means trying something new within your same capacity. Job enlargement means doing more of what you do. And job enrichment means get better at what you do. But what I'm seeing, I have the privilege of being the corporate director of employee relations. So I got 15,000 employees outside of these walls in South Florida. And it seems like the workforce today, they want to be proficient and not experts. They want to say that I've done it, so I'm ready for the next job. I've done this for 2 hours, now I'm ready to manage it. I've done this for 16 days, so now I'm ready to direct it. And I'm being facetious, but I think everyone knows what I'm saying. What you're seeing is it's almost in a sense of entitlement with the workforce today, and COVID is exposing that vulnerability head on, because now that individual that was working in the back room for 5 years, you just expected that person to come into work every day. Now, we can't have that assumption that Delancey Johnson is going to be the director of employee relations for the next 10 years anymore. We have to be creative, not only to pour into our employees, but engage and to retain our employees stronger than we've ever had to do before, because all they have to do is apply online, because I haven't seen them in the last 3 weeks anyways. So what are they committed to? Platform, you know? So again, I just wanted to kind of step in there to say, as an HR practitioner, for those that are listening in, just because you don't have a budget to send someone off to an annual summit or to go get a certification, which are important, there's other creative, innovative things that you can do for your workforce to help keep them engaged and make them feel like they're important. What statistics show is that an incumbent is more likely to stay within a current role when they feel like there's an opportunity to be developed. When they feel forgotten, that's typically when they expand their reach so that they feel important again. So my challenge to you all, especially the ones in HR leadership capacities, is if I was to poll the people that reported to you, I know that kind of is hair raising, would they say you care about them?
Right.
So you're in the role of the people champion and your people don't say it. I hope they do. How do you people feel? So just kind of take that with you to say, are we doing what we can to make our people feel special, even though they're not within close proximity of our workspace? And then if you're able to do that, you're maybe able to retain, because HR is no longer mitigating risk and liability, it's truly executing strategy by being.
Right.
So I digress. I turn it back. I know we got to get through a few more questions. I just wanted to make sure I put that in there though.
Right, right. No, I think it's important, and I definitely agree with what you were saying. And as a matter of fact, I think the responsibility is not just on HR, but it's also on the individual. And one of the things that I have said in, you know, my Facebook postings and different things is we have to take responsibility for our own career. And I literally said, if you are, and I work remote really for most of my career. And so I am one of those people who can actually do that and still have that, you know, that cooler talk and still be engaged, you know, on chat, and, you know, I stay engaged. But for people who, you know, are used to somebody telling them what to do, and they have to be, you know, in the office in order to get work to do, I'm saying, you guys, this is the time to reinvent yourself and share what your skill set is and show that you can do more than just what somebody tells you to do. Because as companies, and my, I would say the main area of expertise has been in resource planning. So it's a bit different than workforce planning because it's in a project environment, but it has the same thing where you're looking at capacity and utilization, and you're really determining your costs, you know, based on a project budget. And people, of course, is, you know, one of the most expensive resources for a project. And so if you're twiddling your thumbs right now, there's no way that other people don't know that. And so that's, you know, conversations that I'm having with people like, you guys, make sure that you are working and you're doing something that's valuable and something that's important to the organization. So thank you. Did anybody else have something that they wanted to say? We can move right on into Natasha.
I was just going to add that, you know, that key thing that you said, invest in yourself. You know, I had to pay for my own certification, and it was the best investment for me. I got my master's degree, and for whatever reason, I could not get those jobs. But once I got my certification, then I started to get looked at differently. And I asked my companies that I had worked for in the past, hey, would you pay for this? Always ask. Let them tell you no. That's always been my philosophy. Let them tell you no. Because if they tell you yes, take that money. But if the other things, if they tell you no, don't let that discourage you.
Right.
You know how much you're worth. Invest in yourself.
Right. Well, so let me ask you, and one of the questions that was in the chat was around getting into HR. And so there was a stigma, and I got into HR, I would say the first time I was literally a training manager in a function before I took the first HR role where I reported into the HR function. And that was in 2004, 2005. And so for me, I was fortunate enough to have the right connection that I was able to come in at even a higher position in HR without going through that generalist track. So one of the questions in the chat is basically, how do I even get into HR? How do I break into that society, if you will? Anybody?
I mean, I'll jump out there. Okay, I digress. Go ahead, Monique. No, the only thing that I was gonna say is, in my experience, people don't jump into an HR position; they jump into people, and you become a people solver or a problem solver by understanding how to leverage people to do it. So if I can guarantee you that we got job security. People are gonna get on each other's nerves. People are gonna complain about their boss. People are gonna complain about their coworker. I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. It's starting to get, what time is it? Okay, we on the East Coast now, work with me. So I'm just saying it's gonna be there. So the question becomes not if you can be a generalist or you can be a training specialist. It is, when it comes to issues pertaining to people, are you comfortable finding the resolution to those? And if so, then that is how you position yourself to become that generalist, to become that specialist, because now you're in a niche of problem solving through people, and then you progressively grow through incremental positions and opportunities. But that's just what I've seen. But I'll let the other groups chime in. Maybe.
Yeah, because I do want some practical, I mean, I would say, you know, in my experience, I can give some steps of, you know, ways that people can get in it, but I definitely want to hear from you guys, you know, whether it's networking with people who are currently in the industry, starting off and maybe I personally took a step back in a couple of tracks so that I could get experience. So one with affirmative action, another one with compensation. And so I, you know, kind of did that, but what are some of those practical things? So if I have my bachelor's in HR, so what can I do to make somebody look at my resume and bring me in the organization?
I found staffing was the easiest route to get into. So
Okay.
that was easier for me. I also worked for the state, because again, a lot of times they just needed a degree, and I worked in the unemployment office. So it's unfortunate for me is I probably was in the unemployment line so often. So they were kind of like, you know, in 2009, they said, brother, why don't you just come behind here? You look like you know what you're doing, because I always have my paperwork ready. So I ended up teaching unemployment. And then that actually launched my career, and was able to work from one state role to an actual generalist role in HR at the state level. And then at that point, I left that to go work for a larger corporation as a talent acquisition coordinator, which then grew into my career, which brought me into the generalist role and then moved me into some other roles.
Right.
And where I'm at today. So again, I found talent acquisition, HR coordinator roles.
Mm-hmm.
If you've never done HR, if you're just like, I'm out of college, and sometimes what happens, and I'll be one of those people too that says, hey, I have a degree, I want to be the HR director, or can I be your chief human resource officer? And I see what they do. Yeah, I wasn't ready. So, but again, those things, when you get that piece of paper in your hand, you think you can conquer the world, and you see a lot of the change management requirements in these kind of leadership development at the CEO level, because you're talking to the CEO at that level. And then you're going to be, again, depending upon the size of your company, you have to keep everyone engaged. Just coming straight out of college with that is somewhat difficult. And then again, you might also be running the diversity and inclusion, which is a whole
another beast.
And training and development, which is a whole different
Exactly.
piece. So you have to kind of, do you want your niche? And then you have to get them and willing to pivot and grow in those roles, so that way you can get that director or chief human resource officer role down your career.
So it sounds like you're saying recruiting is a good place to start. And I do see a ton of recruiting jobs that are out there. So that may be a good place to start. And then as you start to develop that skill, you can see some opportunities within this, perhaps in the same company, where you can transition into something else.
Another practical way, Beretta, is networking and being a part of your local SHRM. I think that for a lot of us, we steal each other from other organizations, or when an opportunity becomes available, it is all about building that relationship. So even if you don't have any HR experience and you're looking to enter into HR, and you network with someone that has an opportunity that comes available, and you built that relationship with them, they're more apt to give you that opportunity. So I think just networking and being kind of positioning yourself in the career path that you want to go in, although you may not be there at that moment. But if you want to be that Chief Human Resources Officer, then position yourself to be around that group of individuals so that way you can network and see how they think and pick up some of those skills.
Right, right. So networking within the SHRM organization, right? I mean, just your local chapter is one, going to the meeting and being a part of that, and because you just develop experience by default, right? And at least understanding some of the challenges that you have. Okay.
You get to know some of the hiring managers. I think that's what Monique was saying, is that sometimes you might be sitting in a meeting and get a phone, or you might be sitting in a meeting or you're looking through your email and they'll send us an email at the board level and say, hey, I'm looking for somebody who could do this role, right? So we take that information, and what I do is I funnel that to our workforce readiness director, who then has a group of individuals he knows or she knows currently, Danita Taylor, she knows that these are people that are currently in transition. So we try to funnel some of these jobs of people that are participating in what we have a program called CAP, which is Career Advancement Programming. And we know that those individuals are currently in transition. Either they want a better job, they want they don't have a job, or they just want to take their first break into HR. So we know who those people are within our organizations, and we try to, again, with networking and communication, seeing that they're really working toward getting opportunities through networking, we're going to pass that information to them. And a lot of times they get those jobs.
So I would agree. And just as being an introvert, I tend to be the one that's standing behind the scenes. And when people talk about networking events, I can go and I can introduce myself and give that elevator speech, but the small talk and all of that, I do find myself like, why do we have to talk about that? Like, can't we, if we focus on a job, a specific area, issue or problem, I got you. But when it's just, how's the weather and, it's but I do say that networking and people knowing who you are is important. Just this weekend, one of my girlfriends and transitioned into a friend. She was my executive assistant, and we just stayed in touch over the years. And she went from being an executive assistant and a C-suite to getting her bachelor's degree and going into HR. And we connected, and she's like, yeah, well, I'm actually looking for something. And so I'm on the phone with another one of my friends, and we're talking about some stuff, and he's telling me what he's working on. And I'm like, hey, I actually know somebody who can help you do this other thing. And he literally said, well, number one, I can definitely give her some work. So give her my number. But two, and not just somewhere, I mean, he's definitely prominent in an area to be able to legitimately give her some work. But two, he said, oh, and my sister is a talent acquisition officer for the state or the city or something like that. So make sure she gives me a call. So just right there. So all of the work that she's been doing to try to find work, just that right there just happened. And that's how things happen. So we can't say, oh, it just happens for everybody else. It does happen for us too. So we have to get out of our comfort zone, make sure that we're meeting people. And so two things from that. One, HR for All People is a company that we put together, just a group of Facebook friends in a group to say, hey, we want to be a resource for HR people and to help that network within, our own collaborative. And so definitely excited about that. And then two, I'm going to talk to Natasha just to talk about her experience and the relationships and the things that she's done and networking to branch off into her own business, which you guys in a couple of weeks, we will be talking about starting your business, not just in HR, but in some type of consultative role. And so look for that advertisement to come through for a couple of weeks. But Natasha, tell me about it. Tell me about, because I was just really excited to hear how you took your experience in HR to a whole nother business, to where I sent you an email and I got back that you were on vacation. And who takes vacation when Natasha does? So let's talk, girl. Let's talk.
Well, I didn't go anywhere, as you can see. I'm still at home in my kitchen. So,
but staycation is still like, I don't even know what that's like to send an out of office but go ahead, do your thing.
Well, I think that the one thing we have to remember is, human resources, we touch so many things and do so many things. And what comes out of that is the fact that we determine really what as we talked about earlier, we determine our niche, what something bubbles up that says, this is what I'm really and truly passionate about. And for someone to go, when you go into your own business and you become self-employed, you really want to focus on something that you want to do all day and all night, because it can be, you want to work harder for yourself. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're going to spend more time working for yourself than you will for a 9-to-5 or for somebody else. So you definitely have to have a passion for whatever it is that you want to do. And quite often that comes out of something that you've done in human resources, if you started out in human resources. I know, for some people in human resources right now with COVID and all of the hoops and the hurdles that everybody is going through right now in their day-to-day jobs with human resources. And I'm in several HR Facebook groups that are people like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm always of the mindset that, you can come out, we were put in this for a reason, and we will come out better at the end of this battle. And one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to learn. We're going to learn a lot of things. We're going to learn about ourselves. We're going to learn about our network and the people around us, the people who support us. We're going to learn about our leaders. And from that, we're going to take, okay, yes, whether this is meant for me, or is it something about human resources that I truly am passionate about, that maybe I can reinvent myself and become, a consultant or start my own company in some form or fashion. So many years ago, many years ago, I actually became ill. And I went through this whole health scare and journey. And I knew at that time that I said, okay, I don't know how long I can work a 9-to-5, but I know that I want to continue to work and have something that I can be flexible, that, my creative juices is sometime at 3:00 in the morning. So I can, rest and then, get up at 3:00 in the morning and be creative and put out marketing materials. And so I wanted something that would also allow me to be flexible as well. And so I knew that there was a possibility that I may not have as many years left when it comes to working a 9-to-5, but I knew that I wanted to work and find something flexible. So I became self-employed. And from that, I took the experiences that I learned, of course, dealing with people and working with managers and corporate leaders and all that personality and learning how to deal with them, and was able to really be able to transfer that into my company and being able to work with clients and guiding them to help make decisions and really being a true consultant, because that's of course what HR is. We're consultants and advisors. So I think that helps. But I also think that network that I built up by being a part of SHRM really helped me make that final decision, because I had that reach of potential clients that I'd already networked with, that I could tap into, that I could use as guinea pigs, to roll out certain things, and go in and say, hey, you know what? Hey, can I, do your marketing materials, or, enhance your website, or, do those type of things. Can I come in and do a training session for your team and test out this particular content? So that was very helpful in that respect. And so it just grew from there. And then, was mentioned several times about, your network, finding a job through your network. When I made that transition of, okay, let me take a step back, because my health was determining how much I was working. So when I took that step back and said, hey, I'm gonna take a hiatus and really, start my company, people didn't know it at the time. And so they just knew I had left my job. So they were coming at the very next chapter meeting. It was like a week later, and people knew that I had left my job. I had 3 people come to me and say, hey, I heard that you left your company. I know so-and-so is hiring. I could put in a good word for you. They would love your skill set. 3 people came to me at that chapter meeting, and I hadn't even hadn't even told anybody that I had left my job, really. It's just from the grapevine of me saying, them emailing, probably somebody emailed me and I had put the, hey, I'm no longer with the company email, and
Right,
it just
exactly.
spread like wildfire, right? So you can definitely use your network with SHRM to be a sounding board to your new business concept. We get approached all the time from startup companies that are looking to approach HR professionals and say, hey, I've got this new tool, I've got this new resource for HR managers, we need to test it out. Would you, could we have a focus group? All those things. It definitely helps other organizations or other small businesses. So it definitely helps from in my opinion, from a jumping off point when it comes to starting your own business. And I truly enjoy it. I have the flexibility, and yes, I did take this week down. I told him, I said, and as you can see, I'm still answering emails, true enough, but that's still a choice. If I really wanted to turn off, I could, but that's
Right.
not me. And so I'm still, addressing certain things that are coming through my email as they come up. But I think at the end of the day, another thing that was very important to me at the time that I started my business was I realized that when I was working my 9 to 5, I knew I needed a side hustle. I knew I needed that. There was something that if I was incapable of working, if my health took a drastic turn and I was incapable of working, I needed some passive income, something that I would be able to run without me managing it day to day. And so I created multiple streams of income to ensure that should something happen and I physically can't do it, that I still have a roof over my head and my lights are still paid.
Right. No, that's good. You've actually made some good points. And that's one of the things that I say when I'm coaching people is you may have your 9 to 5, but you should consider having, something on the side, if nothing else, for tax purposes, right? Because a lot of the things that you do, and even volunteering, I mean, you guys, these are the time that you spend, whether it's gas, mileage, buying things for the volunteer, these are all tax write-offs, and it's a benefit, to be able to use that. So thank you for that. And again, you guys, we will have a session, and hopefully Natasha will come back when we talk about starting your own company and really what that means and some of the steps that you take and how you can use some of the resources within the HR for all people. So excited about that. I was just looking at the chat and I noticed people were talking about what's the best thing for you when you're thinking about positioning your career for, roles. So is it, having the credentials, having the MBA, having the experience? And I think that there's a lot of, I think that there will be continued conversation around that space. But I would like to hear what you guys have to say. I obviously have my own opinion about it as having so much experience, but let me hear what your thoughts are around that. Anybody?
I can only speak from a guy that doesn't have a whole lot of experience, but then I do have a whole lot of experience. Like I took like 20 years, like I said, lots of years was in loss prevention. So I had to kind of convert that over. My degrees were in a totally different subject matter. So again, I had to obtain another degree. I just can't really emphasize how important a mentor is. Really working with an HR practitioner who has been around for some years, kind of getting that, if you were able to do this all differently, what would you do? Because that might be where you are, right? You're in the beginning of your career and you've got someone who's like, I've done all these other things. However, if I was to do it differently, these are the things I would have done, and take some time to listen. I needed the certification because I didn't have that years of experience specifically in HR. So that was a need for me. I needed a master's in human resources because, again, I didn't have those years of experience. So again, you have to really evaluate your own personal issues and then take that mentor, or take that, again, your local chapters have a lot of different levels of experience, and having those critical conversations with the people at the board level, people that you're meeting in your chat sessions, if you're doing virtual meetings, that's where you want to develop those relationships and have those genuine conversations. You have to be vulnerable. And, you know, if you are willing to listen, like when I made some mistakes in my career, I had to really have that conversation with somebody, and they had to share with me, hey, Raleigh, that was some good stuff. Don't talk about that anymore, right? So they had to be very honest with me and give me that critical feedback. And I'm like, but don't they need to know all that? No, they don't.
No, that's a good point. That's definitely a good point. And one of the things, so that's really what we were talking about, the HR for all people concept and that collaborative. So we would have that safe space for people, and we're bringing people in within that group and within our community. So if you go back and look at some of our past series, our Zoom meetings, you'll see some of the presenters that are there and our future presenters. This is a, like I said, a collaborative, but it's also a place to network and be a resource to HR professionals. So we're right at a few minutes before we close, and I cannot close this meeting without talking about the controversial question around SHRM, just right. So lots of conversations around the price of it. Is it overrated? And then you had the SHRM statement that came out after the national protests against systematic racism, you know, where it's like, well, we stand in solidarity, you know, with the Black people, and by the way, and with the and the criminal justice system, or I don't know, what did they say? The police, or the, I don't know. So you guys, who's gonna close us out with that, with that? Just give me some warm and fuzzy, I guess, thoughts around that.
I don't know if I can give you warm and fuzzy, because I'm sitting here in Louisville, Kentucky with Breonna Taylor issues. So I don't know if I can give you warm and fuzzy. However, I can give you this clearer understanding, right? So I was on a conference call recently, which was more of a, and I'm sure all the presidents were invited, where the National SHRM has launched Together Forward, which now they're going to specifically focus on race, right? Natasha and her team and some other HR practitioners within the local chapters, we put together our statement, very specific, and where we stood on where we were on race, right? So National SHRM has now kind of went, oh, let's take a look at race. And they did a survey, and there were some other things that are coming out. So, you know, of course, I'm affiliated with SHRM, so I'm going to be give you the SHRM totally lying conversation. And there's a program that they got currently going, which is I Pledge. I pledge to be a stronger advocate and have those critical conversations. And they provided tools that are available for individuals to have these critical conversations. So if you go to Together Forward, that has a lot of resources that are available, because when you're having those critical conversations, you have to understand that it does impact businesses. And as HR practitioners, we have to be able to understand how to have those conversations, because what are happening outside, and I know I'm not the only ones that sees the messages on Facebooks and social media that say, ask your HR practitioner, are they okay? The answer is probably going to be,
we're
no.
not okay.
We're not okay.
Right.
And then, you know, because we're not okay, doesn't mean we're going to not work. Doesn't mean that we're going to shut down. That means we're going to work harder. We're going to work through it. And then we're going to look at all the resources. This is new.
Right.
So I don't have an opinion on the Together Forward.
So I actually like that statement. This is new. And you're not saying D&I is new, right?
No, D&I is not new.
Inclusion is new. But what I'm hearing loud and clear is for us to be able to stand up in an organization and say, by the way, I'm African American. That's kind of new. So with that said, can I invite you guys back? Can we finish this conversation? Of course, I have more questions. I want to have a part 2 of this because I want you to be able to say, this is where we were on August the 5th, and perhaps in September, let's see where the needle is moved. If you can give us more information about the plan. And then you can also get some feedback too from our participants. We'll send out a survey and we'll get some feedback around what are the things that they plan on doing after having this session and being able to share that feedback with you. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
Do I have everybody that's coming back?
Yes.
You asked for a warm and fuzzy. I want to give you a warm and fuzzy from an HR perspective.
Okay. You guys hold on. I know we're right at 5:30, so give us a warm and fuzzy.
So the warm and fuzzy, I'll use James Baldwin. Not everything.
Oh, that is not warm and fuzzy.
It's fitting, but
okay.
At his face can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. So it's not new that we haven't experienced it. It is new that now we have a voice to change it. So I look forward to the future conversation, but until we have enough managerial courage, leadership courage, and the ability to have influence, then it's going to continue to perpetuate. So I'm excited about the presidents and the things that they're doing. I'm excited for the people that were able to chime in. And I just wanted to make sure I got that out there too, that we, just because we're in these positions doesn't mean that we aren't advocating for the change we need.
Right.
Absolutely.
You guys, thank you so much. This was great. I really appreciate it. All the feedback that you have, your level of expertise, just and appreciate you being volunteers and local and national levels. So thank you again so much. Thank you, audience, for attending the session. Again, as we plan future series, the building series, I want to hear your feedback. I want to talk about the things that you want to talk about. We're a resource for you, so we want to be available and be timely and talk about the pertinent things that impact you right now today. And this is one of them. And so again, thank you to our local SHRM presidents, and let's stay in touch. Thank you so much. Let me put my glasses on here so I can stop the recording.
All right now.